Good morning. This is a VirtualPBX-admin training. The training will last approximately 1 hour. We do record these trainings, so if you can't stay for the whole time, that's fine. You can come back later. That also allows you to share the link with other staff members who may need to become a system admin, whether that's immediately or in the future. Feel free to make use of the YouTube chat feature to ask questions about a given feature as I'm going over it, and I'll try to address the questions as I see them. But let's go ahead and get started. So here you have our dash login page, which is at dash.virtualpbx.com. To get logged in, we need 3 pieces of information. All right, the first, your username. That's your email address. This should be in all lowercase letters. Your password, which is case sensitive. And then the account name, which is typically your organization name, could be your name. And that is not case sensitive. Now, for some reason you can't get logged in, down here at the bottom, there's a forgot your info link just above the sign-in bar. You can click on that, flips the box over. We'll still need your email address. Then we need one of these 2 following pieces of information. Typically, the easiest one to use is the account name, or a phone number on the account, and that's one of your customer-facing phone numbers. One thing to keep in mind about the account name, any punctuation you have in the name does need to be included when you type it in here. But then you would click on the reset password. That's going to send you an email. In the body of the email, there'll be a link that temporarily signs you in and allows you to change your password. If you try to do anything else, it will log you out. But once you're done with that, you'll get logged out here. So you can enter in that new password. You have the option here to click on Remember Me as well, and then click on Sign In. I do recommend for system admins to bookmark the login page just so you can get there easily. And then you wait for the page to load up. Now here I'm on my dashboard page. We're going to start up here at the top where you see your name, or in this case my name, but I'll click here. This opens up a big pop-up. This is the user account page, right? So I could change my password here. You can change your time zone and language, and this is only for your specific user. Now, as an admin over here on the left, you have access to the account level settings. So you can do the time zone and language for the entire account. If you want to change your account name, you're going to want to email our billing team, and that's billing at virtualpbx.com, just because they need to sync up some other stuff on their side to make sure everything syncs up properly. Next up over here on the left, we have add-ons. Add-ons allow you to enable additional features to your Dash account. You see here I have enabled virtual text forward. You can also, among the other potential add-ons that you'll see are things like dynamic caller ID, advanced reporting, and auto attendance. If there is an additional fee associated with that add-on in terms of to your account, there'll be a pop-up to let you know that there is a fee and what that amount per month is. Right? So you have to confirm that to continue. Otherwise, you can cancel and go back. Right, over here on the left, you have the billing portal. And this link here will take you to that billing portal. That's where you would go to update your credit card information or to view previous invoices. You'd also go there to make sure your address is correct. Any system admin can click here on Cancel Account. Takes a little while to load. But you click on the Cancel Account button here to the far right. It'll ask you why you're canceling. Basically, if there's things we can do better. Any feedback. I believe there's also a discount offer to stay or something like that. I could be wrong about that. But once you go through that process, the account will cancel at the end of its current billing cycle. After that, you're done. You don't have to worry about anything else. When you're done here, click on the close box here to the right, and you'll be back here on the dashboard. To the right of your name, you have a D&D toggle. That stands for Do Not Disturb. If you click on it, it'll be mostly white, and that tells you it's on, right? And that means I'm not accepting calls. Right, so calls from me going to voicemail. If you don't have this here, it's because you were assigned to the call center or the ACD queues. Those two features do not work well together, and it's removed automatically. All right, next up, we have a little phone icon here. This opens a new tab, takes you to webphone.virtualpbx.net. If you have a web phone device on your user, you can log into that page using your Dash login information, and that lets you use Chrome or Firefox to make and receive a call. The web phone does count as a VoIP phone. Next up, we have a little chat bubble here. This opens up a new tab and takes you to virtualtext.app. This has its own login information, and that's how you would make use of the virtual text feature. Right? So text SMS for business. Little question mark icon here. This will open up a chat window at the bottom right, and you can speak to our support staff so they can help you with a particular feature that you're working with. The three horizontal line icon here, that's the menu icon. This gets you to other Dash features. We'll touch on these briefly. For these especially, but even some of the other features within the dashboard, I'll be referring to the show notes where there's things like the support page link, among other things. And then a little arrow here to the right is the log out icon. All right, here in the heart of the page here, total users, right? These are people who make and receive calls. Bear in mind that for the vast majority of our plans, the more users you add, the higher your bill is going to be. Then we have your total devices and a breakdown of what they are. Again, for most of our plans, adding VoIP devices is going to increase your bill. Yeah, you might have one included with your user depending on your plan, but after that, you're going to have an additional charge. Check the pricing page just to see what's included on your current plan. Total numbers, I have 13 phone numbers on this account. Generally speaking, your account includes at least one main local number. Some accounts will include an additional number per user. Typically, that's just local numbers. So you can see here, I'm paying an overage per number per month. Got a couple of breakdowns, right? US spare number and assigned number. Assigned number means I'm using it, right? Someone can dial it, speak to somebody, leave a voicemail, join a conference, send a fax. Spare number counts towards my allotment of numbers. I'm just not currently using it, right? It's an inactive number. I have down here USDID. You can also have US toll-free, which is US Canada toll-free, right? 800-888 all the way down to 833. You can have international numbers on your account. If you want to do so, you would want to email our porting team, and that's PORTING at virtualpbx.com. They'll need to know the city and country that you're interested in getting a number in. They'll let you know if it's possible and what, if any, additional documentation is needed. Conference Bridge, I have two. That means I've enabled the conference feature on 2 of my users, so they are hosting or moderating a conference. Over here towards the top right here, I've got my main number block. I've got 2 main numbers. You can have obviously multiple main numbers. These numbers behave in the same way. They're going to the same part of my system. They're playing the same main greeting. Next up, I have the conference room numbers. You can have multiple conference room numbers if you want, but they're all going to the same set of conference rooms. This is the number everyone dials to join the conference, right? That includes your staff. The fax box number, this is your inbound fax number. You can have one main fax box number. This allows you to edit the fax box to see who gets the faxes, as well as allow for outbound faxing, which is via email, which we'll get into later. Company directories, there's 2 links here. One is CSV and one is softphone. CSV is just that. It's a CSV file. Open it with your favorite spreadsheet program. It'll list everyone's, all your users, their names, their email addresses, their extension numbers, and their devices. The softphone link, that is for use with the VirtualPBX desktop softphone application. All right, so if you're going to use our softphone app on your Mac or Windows PC. You could download this file and then upload it to your soft phone on your computer. It will show in the contact list your other staff members who are using the VirtualPBX soft phone. And you can then see if they're on that soft phone app or not. Now, if you have users with multiple kinds of devices, you're not going to be able to see the status of those other devices. You can only see the status of the VirtualPBX soft phones. VirtualPBX Store, this will open up a new tab and take you to store.virtualpbx.com. And that's where you would order things like a VoIP phone, right? SIP phone, a physical device. And then we have the account realm. Every account has its own account realm. It's one of the 3 pieces of information you would need to program or provision a third-party soft phone, right? Someone else's soft phone app, as well as it's used for outbound faxing. Up here at the top, the blue bar where it says VPBX new higher sandbox, we have the caller ID button here. This pull down allows you to select one of your main numbers, and when you select one of them, that becomes your default number. So your VoIP phones use that for their outbound caller ID, for example. And then you would just click on Save Changes. Hold music, your Dash account allows you to upload your own media files. All right, you would just click Upload here, find the file, click on Browse, find the file on your device, click the up arrow icon, and click on Save Changes. The system will play back .wav and .mp3 files up to 1 megabyte in size. So in general, I recommend using a mono file, not a stereo file. That way you can have like a 5-minute or a 1 megabyte MP3 is roughly 5 minutes in that scenario. And that becomes a default hold music for your entire staff. Now, that is not, that will play after the call is coming to your system. Your staff members picked up their VoIP phone, right? Talk to the customer, and then press hold on their VoIP phone. That's when that media file plays. Up until then, they're hearing ringing. Now, hours is part of a main number. We'll get into setting that up after we have other things set up. So let us skip over here on the left-hand side and click on users, little person with the desk icon. As I mentioned, adding users is typically going to increase your bill. On this page here, you see all your users. The people with the blue suit icon, these are your system admins. Dante here has a little gray person icon, and he is just a standard user. So he has very limited access. Up here at the top is where you would click Add User to add more people. It's gonna bring up a box here. There we go. And you fill out the form, right? First name, last name, just put some sort of text. The email address used for login needs to be unique for each user, right? So you cannot reuse the same email address for multiple people. This is how the system communicates with your staff, voicemail notifications, password resets. Password, enter a password in for the user. Main extension number. The system starts you off with extension 1000, so it will suggest the next in that series. You don't have to follow that. You can enter in your own extension number that you want to use, right? So like if you want different departments to have starting with a different number series, you can do so. By default, this box here is checked, and that means what it is, it's creating a voicemail box for this user automatically. It's not so that way it's not a separate step you have to do later. That voicemail box is intrinsically tied to the user. So if you add a VoIP phone to them, they can pick up their VoIP phone once it's registered, hit dial *98 and then click call. That will log them automatically into their voicemail box. And then when that first time they do that, the system will walk them through creating their voicemail box PIN number as well as creating their voicemail box greeting. They can also, as they're reviewing it, hit option 5 to go through their personal options to choose to record their name, which is important because that's what the system uses for the user directory or the company directory, which is this second option here. If you want that user to show up in the company directory, just put a check mark here. And as long as they record their name in their voicemail box, then they'll be available in that user directory. send emails to an alternate address. So if you want the system to send those voicemail notifications or password resets to an email address other than the one they use to log in with, you would check this box here and enter in that different email address in the box provided. This is something you can always change later. Oh, also for the user directory, that's something you can always change at any time as well. Last one down here, send credentials to the user. I do recommend checking that one. What happens is if you click on these bottom buttons, right, either create user or create user and add another, once you do so, the user you just created gets an email welcoming them to the Dash account. It has their login information, right? So create user, you do that if you only need to add one person. Create user and add another would be if you need to add multiple. It just refreshes the box for you. All right. Once a user is created, you can click on their name. All right. So you can always change the name, especially if you had a typo or someone changes their name. Here's your option to change their credentials, right? Their email address or their password. One thing to keep in mind here is when you click on this link right here, there's a link there where you can just send them the password reset email directly. And then click on Save Changes. Right, here's the option to be sent to an alternate address. Here's the option to be in the user directory. Little person icon here, this pull down allows you to change a user into an admin or an admin to a user. You just click on Save Changes afterwards. This little clock icon here, this is so you can change the time zone specific for this user. Right, so that way like their voicemail timestamps are in their time zone. Little flag icon, this pull down allows you to change the display language for these web pages for the user. You have English, French, German, or Russian. Ringing timeout, default is 20 seconds. This is plenty of times for a VoIP phone or a landline. If you have a user only using a cell phone, we typically recommend changing this to 30 seconds up to 45, but 30 is a good starting point. Again, any change you make, click on Save Changes here at the bottom right. Extension number box, you can choose to add additional extension numbers to a user. Just enter in the new extension number and then save changes. Phone numbers, you can add phone numbers directly to a user, right? It's called DID, right? Direct inward dial. You have two options, right? Add from spare, which is using one of your spare numbers, or by numbers, which is adding new numbers to your account. Right? Adding from spare, you would click on this. It shows you the available numbers you have. And you would click on the one you want, click on Add Selected. Now there's two. And then you would click on Save Changes. By numbers, right? You have local or toll-free. We'll start with toll-free here. Choose the toll-free prefix you want to work with. Click on Search. It's going to give you a list of numbers that are currently available. Now, this is a dynamic list, meaning that you're technically competing with other people in real time. So you click on Add Numbers for a number you like. You haven't reserved the number at this point. You can keep looking and add more numbers if you want to. Completely up to you. Once you're done, click on Buy Numbers. Now you're actually acquiring that number. All right, the system verifying the number is still available. And then now it's added here. You would click on Save Changes. Right, at that point, now the number is yours. Local numbers, similar, but you need to know the area code that you want to work with, right? So you just enter it in here and then click on Search. And that'll give you a list here. Now, for any area code, and that includes the toll-free prefixes, you can get a message saying that there's currently no available phone numbers, right? It just means that area code is exhausted. What you want to do in that situation, use your favorite search engine, and in this case, you would do area code 310 overlay. It would tell you that 424 is that overlay. So then you would just do a search for that area code instead, and you would see that there's additional numbers. But beyond that, same process, right? Click Add, click By Numbers, and now you're adding the number to the account. Now, just on this user, right, I have all these numbers. I'm paying an overage for a lot of these extra numbers. Right. because at best I get one local number included with the user for the user on top of my main number. So I've increased my bill quite a bit here. One thing to know about numbers directly on a user or even on a group, these numbers are available 24/7, right? They're always available. No hours of operation or anything like that. You have a little gear icon here. It's at the far right. You can hit the caller ID. So here at the top, in the box to the right, you can enter in up to 15 characters that we will associate with your phone number for purposes of outbound caller ID name, referred to as CNAME. The 15 character limit includes spaces. It's an industry standard. It's not something we can change. We can only control what we send out. Right? The receiving carrier has final say about what shows up on the phones on their network. This is especially true when you're calling cell phones. Like my cell phone provider wants to charge me an additional, I think it's $10 per month to enable to have CNAME information show up on my phone. And that is not unique. I've encountered that with other carriers as well. So bear in mind when you're calling cell phones from your VoIP phones, more than likely that name information will not show up. Your number will go through. Down here, we have the inbound CNAME. You can turn this on. That means if CNAME information is presented to us, we will pass it through to your staff members' phones. Next option is E911. Each phone number can have its own E911 address, right? What's a North American address here? This allows you to assign the numbers to specific VoIP phones for the purposes of 911 only, right? So if you have remote staff, right, Bob's working from home, you can assign a specific phone number to Bob's VoIP phone that has his address for the purposes of 911. So heaven forbid he ever has to dial 911 from his VoIP phone, emergency services gets his address, not your corporate address. And then the last feature here is prepend. This is a VoIP phone feature where you can add text that shows up in front of your staff members' VoIP phones, lets them know what kind of call they're getting. Devices, we recommend that you add devices directly to a user's, directly to the user. Excuse me, can't talk today. This just it saves you a step of having to reassign it later, right? So you already know where it's at. The main one I want to go over here is under this new device is soft phone. On the user, this is the only place you can add the VirtualPBX soft phone as a device for the user, right? Whenever you add a soft phone or a web phone, you'll always get this warning message. Please read it at least once. Once you click close, a big box will show up. There we go. This box starts off or defaults to saying you're using a third-party application. And you can see that below the configuration file, there's a little toggle here. It's kind of grayed out. Right? Because there's more third-party soft phones in the world than there are VirtualPBX soft phones in the world. More people might want to use that. That's why it's here. You would give it a name. You would copy the SIP username, click on the SIP password, copy and paste that, copy and paste the realm. Those are the three pieces of information you would need to program a third-party soft phone. However, for the VirtualPBX soft phone, you don't need all that information. Instead, again, down here below this, where the view configuration guide, you click on the toggle where it says view, and now it says use VirtualPBX application. So now all you need to do is give it a name. You would click on create device and then save changes. Once you click on save changes, the user gets an email letting them know the VirtualPBX soft phone is ready. In the body of the email is their login information, right, which will be different than their Dash login information, and then download link so they can download the app to their preferred device. Again, this is the only place you can add the VirtualPBX soft phone. If you try to do it under devices, it won't work. You won't even have the option. All right. For all the adding other devices, look on the support page link that's in the show notes, and you can look up like adding cell phones, adding or the auto provisioning document as well for VoIP phones. User features, I'm only going to cover a couple of these in depth. Uh, again, you can use the support page to get the in-depth on all of them. The first one I want to cover is the voicemail box. Right, it's enabled with the user when you created them. This is the default settings for a voicemail box. Voicemail boxes can hold 100 messages. After that, they are full. It cannot hold any more. By default, we attach the voicemail message to email, right? So you get an email notification, you can listen to the message via email. To delete the messages, you either need to call in and access your voicemail box over the phone, right? So from a VoIP phone, *98, enter your PIN number. When you're listening to messages over the phone, you'll have the option to delete. Or under the user portal, which we'll get to later, it defaults you to your voicemail box, your voicemail tab. So you can listen to your voicemails there and delete them there. Now, as an admin, you can always choose to automatically delete the messages after that notification is sent, right? So that way it doesn't get full. That, however, means the only way your user is going to be able to check voicemails is via email. So if they have a problem with email, you might be losing those voicemail messages. All right, follow me. This is for users with multiple devices. This is where you, as an admin, decide how those devices are going to ring, right? Now, this user has 3 devices. So right now, without follow me enabled, when a call is offered to him, all 3 devices ring at the same time, every time. Right? Follow me. Instead, right, you would click to enable. And then over here, you have to uncheck the ones you want to make use of. Right? Typically, it's VoIP phones that people choose to make use of. And when you see there's a little green slash here, you can click and drag this to the right. Oops. To give it those devices a ring time. There's a box up here of total time, which is defaults to 2 minutes. You can edit that, make it 60 seconds. You can also click distribute. So now I equalize it out between the 2 devices. It's always going to ring in this order. Unless I do this, I click and drag and then click distribute. So now I change the order. Right, and then you would click on save changes. Right, just so you know what some of these others do, the caller ID number, this is for users with their own phone number. When you enable it, you choose one of their phone numbers, that becomes their outbound caller ID. Right, you'd probably use that for your sales team. Fax box, this allows you to create a fax box for just this user, right? Instead of having one general fax box, you can have individual fax boxes. Or if you need multiple fax boxes for like, specific departments or something like that. Call forwarding, this allows you to have call forwarding set up so that way if something goes on with the VoIP phones, you can have forwarding to another phone number. Call forwarding is also something your users can enable themselves via the user portal, which we'll get to at the end. Call recording, this allows you to record calls for your users, both inbound and outbound. Music on hold, you can have specific on hold music for a particular user. Do not disturb if you don't want to have a person taking calls. Hot desking is a VoIP phone feature. This allows you to log into a phone that you're sitting at so you can get calls sent to you at your desk you're sitting at. But again, use that support page link and you can do a search for the particular feature to get the lowdown on everything there. All right, next up we have groups. Groups are departments, also referred to as hunt groups or ring groups. Right, basically a group of people answer call about a similar topic. Up here at the top, you click on add group, give it a name, give it an extension number. Click and drag your staff members that you want to be part of the group. Click on create group. Once a group is created, you can click on its name. You can always change the name. And you have group call attempts. This is how many times the system will offer the inbound call to your staff members. There's little arrows here, so you can increase or decrease that as necessary. Here's your option to delete a group. Otherwise, click on Save Changes. The members box, this shows your staff members who were assigned to this group and how you're offering calls to them. This setup is referred to as blast ringing or ring all. Right? Everyone gets offered the call at the same time. Whoever picks up first gets the call. You can up here, you have time stamps, excuse me. All right, you can edit this last one. It defaults to 120 seconds, 2 minutes. You can always click distribute. All right, so now the calls are always offered in this order. It does not matter if Dante is already on a call and a second call comes into the group, he will still be offered that second call initially, right? For what, 30 seconds or 40 seconds here. And then it would get offered to David, right? Now, as an admin, I can come in here and adjust the slider, for the later users. So that way those later and then click on Save Changes, right? Then those later callers aren't waiting on hold quite as long. Another thing to know is calls from a group that are offered to a user, ignore the follow me settings, right? That user feature, the follow me calling, calls from the group, ignore that setting when it's offered to these users. So bear that in mind. Another thing to know is that the call center, right, the ACD queues, they're an advanced version of the groups, right? There's more advanced routing options, like in terms of like round robin, who's most idle, right? Who's been waiting the longest. Your staff members have more control in terms of they can log themselves in and out of queues, which they cannot do in a group, right? They can mark themselves away. Also, in the queues, a manager can eavesdrop in on calls, etc. And there's an ACD QUEUES Pro demo link in the show notes. The extension box, you can have multiple extension numbers for a group. Just click on Add Extension and enter the extension number. Just like for users, you can add a phone number directly here to a group. Also, just like users, it's always available, right? 24/7. Group features. First up is ringback. So when a call comes into the group, right, starts ringing your staff members' phones, their phones ring, that ringing sound is piped back to your inbound caller. If you don't want that, and instead you want a different media file to play, for example, you would come up here and click enable and upload an MP3 or WAV file up to 1 megabyte in size. One thing to know, the system will not loop the file for you. So you want to make sure the file you put in here matches or exceeds the total ring time you have in your group. Right? This does not play before the call comes into the group. It's as it's in the group, right? So it's possible that the inbound caller won't hear the entire file play. Next action, this to me is the most important group feature. Now, it's essentially saying, hey, if no one picks up the call, what do you want the system to do with it? You would click up here to enable, and then you have this pull down. You can send it to another group. You can send it to a voicemail box. You can send it to a specific user, right? Something that's already on your system. Allow call forward. Up here, you click to enable, and that means your users can make use of call forwarding. Right? Generally speaking, you might want this on if you're only using VoIP phones, right? If people are using both cell phones and VoIP phones, probably not as necessary. Caller ID prepend. This is a VoIP phone user. Up here is how you enable it. You can add additional text or numbers in front of the caller ID that shows up on your staff members' VoIP phones. The idea is to give them a heads up about the kind of call they're on. I recommend using one or the other, not both. And my own personal preference is text, just so it's a more separation from the phone number of the person calling in. All right, so now that we have users with devices and groups, we can go to the main numbers section. Up here at the top, main company numbers. Either buy new, right? So adding new numbers to the account, or add from spare if you need to add more main numbers. You can click unassign next to any number you no longer want to use as a main number. That does not delete the number from the account. It just puts it as a spare number. You also have the little gear icon here so you can update the E911 keypad, etc. You have office hours strategy. Oops. You can be 20-hour open 24/7, right? Or have custom office hours. If you choose custom office hours for each day of the week that you're open, put a check mark and then set your open hours in 24-hour or military time. Down here at the bottom, you also have the option to be closed for lunch every day at the same time. Put a check mark in front of that and set your lunch hours in that 24-hour or military time. And then click on Save Changes. Office holidays, if you're closed for holidays, put a check mark here. And then over here to the right, you have Add Holiday, you have Single Day, Date Range, or Advanced. Right, clicking on any one of those will create a new row. Single day, right, give it a name, choose the month and the day, save changes. Date range, give it a name, start date, end date, save changes. Advance, like I have here for Memorial Day, excuse me, right, gave it a name, month. The second pull down, you have the options first through fifth, as well as last, and then the day of the week, and then save changes. If you wish to remove a holiday, click on the little trash icon and then save change. Yeah, then save changes. All right, then we have incoming call handling. So for my two main numbers, how do I want the system to handle my calls during my open hours? There's an after hours tab. There's a holiday tab. If I had chosen to be closed for lunch, there'd also be a lunch hours tab. This first option here under my open hours, I have calls coming in. They're going to my virtual receptionist. This is a link that I can click on. I'm gonna open up a big old box. The main menu, these are things people press on their phones to navigate through your phone system. Down here is where you would click on Add Route to add additional menu options. The first pull down here, you have 0 through 9, the star key, and then the default action. Right. The second pull down are things on your account, like users, groups, devices, media files, right? So you want, so ideally you want names that you can recognize what they are, but then you would select what you want the menu option to go to. Over here, you got your greeting options, text to speech. You type in a greeting in the box provided here, up to 250 characters, not words. It's a computerized robotic voice. Not a bad idea to get started with, just until you get used to how you want the system to be. There's no charge. Keep in mind that the system names this file for you. In this case, it'd be my main open hours menu, TTS. So when you create one like this, I recommend using the greetings tab, which we'll get into shortly. Change the name. Upload your own file, right? Click on Browse, find a .wave.mp3, and then click on Update. Choose from an existing file. This shows all your media files on the account. So again, you want to use names that you can recognize. You can record it over the phone. Now, the system says pick up a phone registered to the account. That means a VoIP phone. This is a security feature because of a registered phone or registered VoIP phone, the system knows, oh, it's connected to this account, so it's secure phone. Right? Now, if that doesn't work for you, right, you want to use, like you have a friend who's got that great radio voice kind of thing, then down here under settings, you want to do this one here, allow outside recording. Click that on. So now you can call in from any phone number to record your main greeting over the phone. You'll still need this PIN number, which is unique to this account at this time of day. Right? So my system here is only open Monday to Friday. So if I called in on Saturday and use this PIN number, it won't work. Right? So it only works during my open hours. When you call in, you're replacing the existing recording that's there. So, you know, like when you first start off, that's not a big deal because we have a generic text-to-speech greeting there for you. But come holiday season, you might want to keep that in mind because you might be overwriting your normal main greeting with a holiday greeting. Oh, and then once you're done with that outside recording, you want to turn that back to off and click on save. That way someone doesn't accidentally hit the PIN number and then record over your main greeting, because there are people like that. Professional recording services, when you click order, this will open up a new tab and take you to a company called Snap Recordings. They bill you directly via credit card. They send you the completed file via email. So that way, when you come back here, you would just go to upload your own file. Right, settings, number of retries on misdial. This is how many times your inbound caller can make a mistake. I have one listed here, which means they can make one mistake. They get 2 total attempts. Dialing timeout, this is how much time the system listens for additional button presses, right? So inbound caller calls in, they press 7. The system's going to wait to a count of 5 and say, oh, you're done. So then it looks, is there a menu option 7? In this case, no. Is there an extension number 7? Which there's not. At that point, it says, okay, that's a misdial. So then it would send them back up here saying, oh, you still have an attempt, repeats the main greeting. Say that person hits 7 a second time for whatever reasons. At that point, after that second attempt, the system would say we did not recognize your entry. If there's a default action, it would send it to the default action, which I have right here. If I get rid of that, then on that final attempt, it says we did not recognize your entry, goodbye. We covered outside recording. Allow dialing extensions by default. This is on, and this just means if that inbound caller enters a valid extension number, the system will transfer the call. If I turn this off, that means my inbound caller can only press these menu options. Anything else is invalid entry. And then the suppress the playing of that invalid entry message, right? So if I don't want that message to play about, oh, we did not recognize your entry, then I would turn this on. And typically you would do that because you do have a default action that you're transferring the call to, is why that would be in place, generally speaking. All right, any changes you make to your main menu, your greetings, or your settings, you want to click save down here at the bottom. When you come back here to incoming call handling, you want to click save changes. All right, for my after hours, I'm making use of the second option, which is referred to as a live operator answer option. The idea here is in this first pull down, I'm offering to call to someone or some people on my account, right? I'm giving them a chance to answer the call first, right? So like my receptionist group or something similar, right? If they can't answer the call, right, then the system will offer the call then to the virtual receptionist. Right, this is my after hours receptionist, so I have different menu options and I have a different greeting, but beyond that, similar concept as under the virtual receptionist. For holidays, I'm using this third option. This pull down, first pull down is anything on the system, right? Users, groups, phones, media file, what have you. I instead chose the last option, which is skip the voicemail. And in the second voicemail box, you can choose any voicemail box on the account. Essentially, during the holidays, I'm like, hey, just leave a message. We'll get back to you when we get back in the office. Main conference room number. You have multiple conference room numbers if you want, right? You can add from spare or buy new. You can also do a custom text-to-speech greeting. Just click enable, type it in here, click on save. Even if you don't do that, when you call your conference room number, this system says welcome to the conference and prompts you to enter the conference room number and PIN number. Main fax box number, you can only have the one number. But once you have one, you can edit the fax box here. Inbound notification. In the box to the right, enter an email address. That email address gets a message every time someone sends a fax into the account. You're going to have date, the time, phone numbers involved, and a PDF attachment. Now, if someone dials your fax box number, say from their cell phone, right? They hear fax tones, most people hang up. This person still gets an email saying, hey, there was a failed inbound fax attempt, right? Look at the body of the email. If in the caller ID, if it says something like wireless number, you know, it was just a someone misdialed. Email permissions. This is designed ideally to put your company's email domain here, but you can also just put a particular email address. And this is what you're saying, who's allowed to send a fax out. So if you put your company email domain here, like you have VirtualPBX, that means anyone at VirtualPBX can send a fax out from this account, even if they're not a user on the account. Now, as I mentioned probably very briefly, sending out a fax is via email, right? So you create an email like you normally do from the email address you use to log in with typically. In the to field, you put the destination phone number, excuse me, +1 area code and phone number, no spaces, dashes, or parentheses. Then you put the @ symbol, and then you put your account realm, right? Your account realm would be here on this page for you. Then you attach a PDF or TIFF file. You don't have to click, you don't have to put anything in the subject line or in the body of the email. You will click on send, right? In fact, the system only checks the to field, the from field, and the attachment. Only one attachment per email, so you want to make sure you don't have any like signature files automatically uploaded to your emails. Also, you can only send out to one email address, right? Don't try to CC multiple phone numbers at the same time. All right, auto attendants. This is an add-on feature. This allows you to create additional auto attendants for the use of things like submenuing, right? You want people to call in and say press 1 for English, 2 for Spanish. You would then create an English and Spanish auto attendant. Or the most common that we actually come across is people with multiple businesses. They want their additional businesses to have their own phone numbers, their own main greetings. Click add attendant. You give it a name, give it an extension number, click on create attendant. They default like this, saying unavailable in main menu. The idea is that it's a standalone attendant. You can click on this toggle. Now it's a submenu option, right? So it can be an option off of my virtual receptionist. It can also be a next action option from one of my groups. But because they can also be their separate businesses, you can add additional phone numbers directly to your auto attendants. You have the extension number box. You can add additional extensions. This is typically only what your staff would use to transfer calls to different auto attendants. And then you have a little wrench icon here under settings. And you see here I have open hours, after hours, and holidays, right? This will match what we set up under the main number, right? So your main numbers, your auto attendant numbers, they can have hours of operation. Numbers anywhere else are available 24/7. Devices, this shows your devices on the account. Red means it's not registered, i.e. we can't send calls to it. Green means it's registered, so we can. You can add devices up here. And I want to point out again that the soft phone, right? You have the option to add a soft phone here, but you don't have that toggle here at the bottom, right? So that toggle only shows up when you added a soft phone directly to a user. The other thing to point out here is under the little wrench icon, under advanced emergency caller ID, you can add whatever phone numbers that have addresses directly to this VoIP phone. So that way, if Ariel has to call 911, it shows his address, not the corporate. The greetings tab shows all your media files on the account. Up here, you can add new ones. That means you're just uploading them. Right, give it a name, click on browse. And now my computer is, there we go, hold on a minute. Right, so give it a name, click on browse to find the file, .wav.mp3 up to 1 megabyte. Click on create greeting, and it will show up here, right? Name of the file, it's what it's currently called. Source, TTS is text to speech. Upload means it was uploaded, and recording means it was recorded over the phone. The little play icon here, right next to each file, you can back directly in your browser. You also have the option to download it. So for some reason the playback in your browser isn't working, you can download it. Also, for the download for your main greeting that you use for most of the year, I recommend downloaded copy so you have a local copy. And in some cases, you may want to just re-upload it so that way you can just like, main underscore backup. So that way you have two copies here as well. And the little wrench icon here. Here's the name. So you can always change the name to something that you can recognize, or you can remove the greeting if it's no longer relevant. Numbers tab shows your numbers on the account. Right, you have the little gear icon, spare numbers. This is where you can delete numbers from your account. So like I can put a little check mark in front of them, and now I have this option here to delete show up. I just click delete to confirm. Confirms that they've been deleted. And now I have less numbers on my account, right? So if you want to remove account, first you have to unassign it. So it becomes a spare number. Then you come to your numbers tab under spare numbers, and then you can delete it. Also up here, you have the option to port a number, which means you're moving a number from one carrier to another. In the show notes, use the support page link there to do a search for porting a number. And that will show you the entire process. Voicemail boxes, this shows all your voicemail boxes on the account. The ones with entry here under the user are the user voicemail boxes, right? They was created at the same time as the user. You can create your own voicemail boxes, which you probably would do for your groups or if you're making use of queues. You just give it a name, give it a voicemail box number, give it a PIN number, click on create voicemail box. A main thing to know about a voicemail box number, it is not the same as an extension number, right? So if someone calls your main number or calls my main number on this account here, right? And they enter 3333, they're not getting to this voicemail box. In fact, they'll get invalid entry. Right. Now, if I make it a menu option off of my virtual receptionist, then they would come here. Now, the voicemail box number, PIN number, that's how you would access the voicemail box over the phone. Right. If you want to change this greeting, check the messages over the phone. Under advanced greeting media, you can upload media file directly to be its voicemail greeting, right? .wave, .mp3 up to 1 megabyte. The temporary is for that out of office or vacation message. So if you have a message selected both in temporary and media, only the temporary plays. The media file will not play again until you change the temporary back to none. Recipients, your user voicemail boxes have one built-in recipient, but if you need to add additional, you would just come here, click on add recipient, and keep adding email addresses until you're done. And then options, once you have voicemail greeting and recipients, click on already set up. Again, you can double check to make sure you have attached voicemails to email. This was my support voicemail box, so I opted to delete after notification, right? Because I don't want this voicemail box to ever get full. Text forward, again, this is the add-on. This allows you to have phone numbers accept inbound text messages, and then you forward it on. It is not for two-way communication. You can look in the show notes for the exact how-to. Virtual extensions, this is a plan-specific feature. This allows you to add additional extension numbers without adding users. Now, these are limited, right? They can't be a part of a group. They can't be a part of a queue because they're not users. They can't have the VirtualPBX soft phone app because there's no email address to send the credentials to, and they can only have one device. Call logs show your call history on the account. You can go, you have today, this week, right, this month, as well as custom. The system will let you go back to up to 12 months. All right, you just choose that and click filter. For each one of these, you can also download the file. It's a CSV file, so if you're good with spreadsheets, you'll get some more information out of it. Little extinguisher icon here will create an email for you, pre-addressed to support@virtualpbx.com. It's gonna have the technical details. Just enter in the context about why you're sending it in. Feature codes. These are ways for your Dash users to access, these are ways for your VoIP phone users to access Dash features directly from their VoIP phone. Support pages. You can do search for feature codes. You can also do a search for the phone commands cheat sheet, and they'll all be there. Blacklists. This allows you to create a list of phone numbers you're blocking from reaching your system. Again, please refer to the show notes, the support pages. Call recording. This is where you would view your call recordings. This account is set up with AWS, so this is actually showing my AWS call recordings. If you're using the built-in call recording, then you would actually be taken to a separate web page. Just use your Dash login, but you would view your recordings there. AWS we recommend for high volume customers, as well as I believe it's insurance customers who are required to keep call recordings for 10 years. But especially for high volume because it's more cost effective for you. Number manager, this will take you back to your spare number page. User portal, every user has access to their own user portal. It defaults to your voicemail tab so they can play back your messages. You can download it. If you put a check mark here in the box in front, that's where you change its status by this box up here. Call history shows your call history. Fax only works if you have your own fax box, but you would see your fax history. Contact list is everything within your Dash account. So if you need to transfer calls. Conference tab, this is where you, for users that have their conference page enabled, they can set up their participant and moderator pins, which should be different. But beyond that, again, use the show notes for all the manipulation there. And then settings and devices, right? This is where your staff members can enable call forwarding on their own. They just put a check mark here, put +1 area code and phone number, and then save. All right, so now I'm call forwarding. If I uncheck it and click save, now I'm not. Webhooks is a plan-specific feature. This allows you to link Dash to other software. In the show notes, you're going to want to look at the introduction to Zapier webinar, as well as you can go to developer.virtualpbx.com to see sample code of what we have done to link Dash to other software. You can also talk to our sales team if you want some more information. SMS registration, this is what you would need to go through to make use of virtual text. There is a one-time $99 setup fee, so please be aware of that. You click on the register button, and then here you see the registration status. Call center, this opens a new tab, takes you to callcenter.virtualpbx.com, uses your Dash login. Again, in the show notes, please take a look at the ACD QUEUES Pro demo, and you can also use the support pages to look at these ACD QUEUES page there. Dynamic caller ID. This allows you to create rules to change the outbound caller ID for your VoIP phone users. Usually easier to set up with an area code, but again, use the support page and look up dynamic caller ID. This is an add-on feature, so please be aware of that. The faxes, this just shows your fax manager, right? So you can see your inbound faxes or your outbound faxes, as well as your email to fax log. The little eyeball here at the right will tell you why there's an entry here. Reports, this is the advanced reporting feature, which is an add-on. In the show notes, look at the advanced reporting demo, right? This allows you to create your own reports, so it's more detailed than the call logs. Voicemails, this lets you get to any voicemail box on the account, right? So if you get a voicemail box that is full, you can then come here and get to that voicemail box and see what's going on with it. Play back the message, download it, etc. Integration AWS. This is how you would go about linking your Dash account to AWS. We need the secure key, the secret secure key, and the bucket. And then save. And that's everything. So I haven't seen any questions, so I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. I thank you for your time today, and we will see you next week at